Could you help me with this? I swear in a goon. I know. His name is Derek, he doesn't have a wiki. You don't have a wiki, can you send your email into the chain, please?
So anything, any internal link or hack that you have to part off in the back file or somewhere that you could put in there. So the first one is slow roads, we have a bunch of something slow road. The second one is manage to I think offsite blocking is also. Site blocking. That's what they call site block, context of site block. Okay.
Do they have a democracy in that?
Yes,
They do.
yes. Or it's, I think it's an internal. No, it's. Um. Okay, the internal link to two is like international. Actually, I looked it up. And then the terminal is straight. Great, but,
What?
Is the student meeting?
You can type voice first, actually, well, there's a lot of
like in case someone cheats.
Oh, I see, I see.
It is national, so.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, NDCA is fun. I think you should start. I think the block should be like. Wait, can you do poker? Like, does poker take all 8 minutes of the one and C? Or two and C?
I think so.
Okay,
It's pretty long.
yeah. Did you shorten the blocks at all or?
Yeah,
Okay, so will you be able to get it done? Like in 5 or 6? Cause what we can do is. If you do proper case and you do case well, then I could do like. I don't know, like design.
oh yeah, we've got this service.
So leaders, I think actually what we can do is we can do Kroger and then T. Or Kroger and then process counterclaim, like something that doesn't really require a case. Or we can do the distance.
Yeah. That's. Yeah, it should be fun.
Let me go tell them to offer it as a.
Oh yeah, I should have.
The one MC is in Dropbox under round 2, so they're not like that. If you do the like policy route, and you do process time for a case, and like case as in like really good case, the case is more than. Hello. Oh, and then I told you a bit earlier, I wanted to say hi, but like, we went out with something. Oh, I was very tall with this one. This is like. I like your pop.
Thank you, sorry, I didn't hear you. Is someone recording?
It's recording, but if you wanna sit, like, I think Bradley last round sat right there with the, okay, I think there's some bag on there actually.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Oh, yeah, it's alright.
Do you have a paper?
Yeah, gosh.
Thank you. That recording is gonna pick up my like sickness, like I took some Mucinex and I'm not.
You won't need all. of them.
Thank you.
Give me more. Derek. Take your memory from class. Hi.
Hi.
Remember she came to talk about. I
Yes.
did.
y'all are, this debate will be voted pink and purple. Yay.
Make sure, you time
There's no way to ask me a question.
Ivy's in Aruba or Antigua, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, she texted me, she was like, I'll try to stop by, but I'm not here, I would like, see you, which is so sweet.
But yeah, she was just like, when she texted me, she was like, text me if you need help, and I was like, are you gonna be in a play? She's like, yeah.
Aw, she's so sweet. I love the friendship bracelets on the tables, I have those, I'm gonna bling
Oh
out.
my gosh, I came kind of late, I came in time for the first round, obviously, but I was like, I came too late to like pick a box.
Aw.
I was late after the round.
Alright, interesting. Yes.
I went outside the list and ask something.
What side are y'all?
We're not.
Okay, yeah. Alright,
I think they already started the chain though. I don't know if it was just one needs to just like watch.
okay, I don't usually look at the chain until after the debate, so. Here. Sitting.
Is Alpharetta BN. Last of his BN was with Cynthia, so such a throwback.
Oh, I miss Cynthia. How's Cynthia doing?
I think she's doing pretty well. She's going to Emory for history. She seems pretty excited about that.
Is she debating?
I do not know.
Yeah, Emory's kind of the board, they're huge.
They are.
The Death Star. Like, the Empire. Whenever y'all sent out the chain.
Yes.
I don't look at the chain until after the debate, so
Okay.
cool info, but.
Yeah.
I sent it out like on Instagram. I appreciate it though. Sometimes happens. That has, I've like not gotten on the chain accidentally and I'll open it up and be like, time to look at a lovely debate worth of cards and then it's not there.
You know, from what we judged that.
Yes, and I finally get to do it in person.
Whenever y'all are. Okay. Let me just. It's like, thank you, they're Josh's, and then just stick it.
Aw,
It's like a tradition now, all of the senior teams get to use it, so like
That's
it's
super
been,
cute.
that's been used for years.
the UWG alum.
Oh, do you think for it?
I have,
I got it.
I was provided.
Okay. Oh, everyone's good? Yep, I'm cool. Advanced the economy, commercial piracy websites are at an all-time high. The digital millennium copyright actions have been established a weapon effect directly effective response to control laws. Up to 24 Congress does not update proper laws to address commercial piracy websites, and policy and law resolution protecting copyrights ended. While Congress enacted the DMC, but the DMC was certain people access the internet through telephone wires, names, and files, and the millions, especially on piracy websites, identifying and pricing and illegally uploaded files to be taken down as fast as possible and impossible to gain without more crimes specific knowledge or to applicability of the DMCs, it would be impossible to prove something in the LR in the 2 second. Legal problem that actually the decade-long congressional winners, policymakers have begun to reject the oversimplified open narrative, but this does not mean policymakers will now adopt the right policies moving forward. Specifically, impacts the creative industry's ability to conform to economic outputs. It talks 22 piracy creativity industry lost revenue and price really making it difficult to invest in sustained businesses, discourages innovation, risk taking, diminished incentive to take greater risk for piracy, and impact on the new generation lead to more conservative approach and bring industry potential consequences of digital piracy reform, job losses, reduced employment, and negative ripple effect on related industry overall economy sectors of revenues from sector decline, impacting public citizen, infrastructure erosion, macro diminished incentive to invest in the future of industry as a whole. The creative sectors foundational to on-pace growth pillar 24 arts and cultural industries continue to have significant impact on the US economy, generating 1.1 trillion in economic activity accounting for GDP report shows profound influence of arts on nation's economic landscape. Sectors sustain an upward trajectory increasing compared to the broader economy's modest growth. Arts has figure far exceeding nationwide economic growth every state has seen increased value from the arts since 2019, continuing economic growth from industries in addition to growth eclipsing the US broader economy. Arts issues and on uptake in employment levels workforce sustaining approximately 2 million workers. Arts contribute to the strength of our national state economy. Slow growth causes the worst extinction factor. 23 slow growth expected to decline that window of opportunity close inside aggression and strength of the power become larger when the third decline was from reactions large until substantial corporate economic societal and military power protection deployed. Long trade routes with great power competition triggered major wars. No numbers incentivize discretion broad junk 22 scholars attribute aggression to domestic problems. One most promising explanations decreasing economic growth through certain time and became more efficient because their economies went downhill, saying the economy have interruptive effects on military conflicts. Or growth rates contribute positively to conflict initiation growth. Had 2 distinct effects. Slower growth in one state leaders to economic slowdown increases foreign aggression should be especially concerned about. The risk of trouble with economies goes to international security. Slow growth causes domestic problems socially to diversionary force. The plan combats piracy while maintaining healthy industry growth. Moss 24. Sidewalking legislation pressing piracy has been an enormous problem in creative industries and best known as combating online piracy to protecting its massive effort that includes sending millions of takedown notices in the first 8 months of 2022. There are 141.7 billion offenses piracy for digital movies and video processing 129.2 billion number 250,000 should implement sidewalking, reaching sidewalking person and internet users prevented from accessing particular website users or receiving error message users who now simply typing different domain names. Thus, the plan of the United States federal government should significantly strengthen the sidewalking protection of domestic and intellectual property rights and copyright. Advantage 2 is harmonization. Anti-sidewalking attitudes have taken the U.S. out of lockstep with global norms and act protection and piracy under mandatory 22 growing use of blocking around the world flex. Context for debation to other countries reason to buffer what they expect for responsible summaries are only for American firms ISPC. Initial groups and found growing numbers support blocking complete transnational laws related to consent to ensure entries play equitable. International jurisdictions have successfully implemented blocking measures that curb counterfeiting U.S. law and adoption. Green lights piracy 20 countries blocking is best practice. U.S. failed to follow the economies in adopting in contrast offering blocking likely to keeping adopters in Europe shows at least one area of digital policy where the U.S. will advise to emulate European development should block and normalize following many jurisdictions without provide body work that represents best practice for the U.S. Absent international consensus critical allies divert trade attention which inflames relations by only roughly 21 blocking is central alignment side blocking and taking with other aspects of global orders one country converges with others on side blocking counters expect those countries to be likely to join trade hack imagine U.S. policy blocking used to not predict you more likely to trade with the U.S. and with China than the U.S. metric could have blocking that change. Central relations will lead to changing blocking patterns act as harbingers of changes to international order trade collapse causes nuclear war 2015 decisions foreign peace taken by people acting basis future expectations leaders fear decline responsibility supports evading credibility adopt protection policies refuse to be disturbed by nuclear could happen roughly change to new state peace for various policies and citizen which faces successively depend on trade outward preserve currency functions essential sectors countries must resist instinct of letting down trade plan salt and lines
The US with global IP regimes creating momentum for leadership as well 23 and between legal and legal prior to content use for piracy, sidewalking laws, rights, liberties, access block, access to research from around the world, creates blocking access to large groups of people from legal and illegal context of secure legislative and countries demonstrated, blocking to affecting work without independent nature, peace, or net neutrality, does not break the internet advantage theory of rule of law. Digital piracy, shredding rule of laws, perceived as destabilization of private property. Frederickson 15 piracy articulated destabilization of private property and implicitly engaged with onward traces of property across IP and stolen goods, founding rights to derive from output interests have convinced democratic governments that profit is style policy business, a lobbyist publicly crisis of democracy are entwined to focus on file sharing and freedom consequences and information age overstep constitutional boundaries, wrecking democracy. Smith's 23 online piracy on greater society at large blurry economic incentives and fewer distributive works that directed to protecting copyright works, reduce funds copyright protection, provide rights to winners with incentive to address absence of legally enforceable rights and typically effective investments, constitution, empowering creators like the proper incentive protection budgets, limited opportunities to recover investment, significant problems to broader society, extinction 2021 with us to great power conflict terror, and mass migration line, democratic institution, American isolation, and compound the nature of surgery, and with autocrats, extremism, flourishes under dictatorship, democracy, so export, extremism were pretty strong with other competitor partners, and terror traffic, and poverty, open societies, and tech that will solve climate change. There are 3 impacts: 1, warming, in 2023, human costs, climate change linked to natural disasters, collapse of food extinction, collapse of food extinction, disease, to which care, cooperation, and climate change will lead to extinction. Scientists published comprehensive record in short period human activity, increased temperature, and anthropogenic factors support global GHG push. Ecosystems are hard limits of human adaptation consequences include disease, food collapse, carbon sinks turn into emissions, destroying ecosystems, triggers, degradation, natural resources, and biodiversity change will make heat waves frequent and more wildfires. Democracy is key to solve the list 21 eco-authoritarianism, loss of the complex realities of political change. Authoritarian states have performed better autocratic regimes lack on climate. Dubious to suggest China as a model data doesn't support picture of unfair or unaffordable for kind of concern climate change. People can make sensible decisions. 2, terrorism goes nuclear. Our goal 18 the threat of new terrorism is increasing terrorist groups express desire to acquire fossil material to build and detonate a new global destructive spark rising potential to nuclear use consequences include an escalation of conflict and the emergence of new ones. Democracy solves. Let's turn to attacks. Imagine 18 clarity in the internal distribution of terrorism confidence across regime types getting wider, reluctantly growing double democracy advantage, higher quality democracies less prone to terrorist attacks increase, and number of attacks among democracies is lower political openness and the protection of civil liberties with minimization of terror. 3 is nuclear war. Democratic decline causes global lash out. Battlefield 23 few attacks on goals and wings even from other areas considered by concealed global wars of addressing problems would be a world dominated by them would be worse at responding to extinction, have major wars, miscalculated problem due to personalization, states are less cooperative, no one's characterized by current range of previous that for pandemics for climate progress reduces the risk of collapse, solves safety challenges, totalitarians, and progress. Site blocking solves maintains democratic rule by upholding free speech laws. Of 24 site blocking has highly effective in securing reliable protection for creators' rights while others second free speech restrictions have strengthened legitimate commercial uses and refrain from doing anything to discourage online discourse. Site blocking regime in the US must provide strong due process protection, clear safeguards against the abuse. Site blocking does work, provides effective and reliable protection, boosting contribution of the creative industries to growth and increased jobs that promotes dynamic competition. Sarah will send this out after the honest politically enabling revolutionary and that decreases state dependence. Figure 23 guides reading proposals of friendly vital reforms, institutional experimentation, a helpful framework, refusing political division between means and ends rather than a way to better society, complaining in politics and body so for change popular with an anarchist state law sites for previous figure to practice carried out by state bodies. Reform methods have wider readers. Reform to radical for attention some characterized regular policy reforms as a form of play programs, experimental role playing and testing that pulls things into different connections. The other is B22 simulations create opportunities for critical thinking and appreciation diverse viewpoints and the increase as specific engagement. Mark the key part at civics engagement and Sarah will send the base to us. Yeah, of course.
I just went to where it's.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Charger left in here maybe?
Yeah, Stu, I'm rushing over to grab.
Oh, yeah, that must be it. Thank you very much. I think, yeah, that looks like it. Good luck, y'all.
You're good.
How does design privacy wreck democracy?
Can you say that one?
How does design privacy wreck democracy?
Design. How does what?
Or like, how does digital piracy wreck democracy?
So right now, the, what's it called, pirating that's going on, digital websites is unconstitutional and breaks constitutional bounds. That's the Friedman evidence. It talks about how, it doesn't give people necessary due process protection and how it
Wait,
opens the door for
what's the-
other undemocratic, policies.
Okay, but like, how does digital piracy cause people to not have like constitutional protection? Like, how does that? even
Yeah, so the loss of evidence is really clear that there is no guarantee of due process protections now, which violates constitutional burdens.
Yes, I
and-
understand, but like, how does that come from digital piracy?
Yeah, the Frederickson evidence we read talks about how piracy is a catalyst for destabilization of all private property and how private property is no longer protected if piracy.
So digital privacy destroys all property, okay. On your economy advantage, what's SOPA?
SOPA is a bill that was attempted to pass. It's distinguished from sidewalking. Mossoff says that it was ineffective at like rallying political support, but
What did it do?
there were like complaints. It was meant like it was put forth on the floor many years ago. And Mossoff kind of made a Goldilocks to prevent overblocking and underblocking.
How does the creative industry like single-handedly sustain the economy?
So the Billard evidence is really clear that upholding a robust creative industry prevents slow growth from occurring. And entering into a period of slow growth is what causes the US to preemptively lash out in a diversionary war, and B causes other countries to come in and attack because they see the US as falling away
Yeah.
and they are entering spheres
Okay.
of influence.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've been through multiple recessions like 2008, no war happened. What's to say slow growth positive?
Sure, so the Billard evidence is like it takes into account the past recessions and says that right now upholding the creative industry is necessary to prevent entering that period of slavery.
Yeah, but it didn't, like extinction didn't happen from a slow growth period in 2008. What's to say it's gonna happen?
Sure, so the Beckley and Jonah evidence are both post-COVID, post-08, and say that if the US enters a period of slow growth, it would diversionarily lash out and other countries would come in. And like it talks about the revisionism of Russia and China because they would come in and try to take the US's spheres off.
Okay, on your harmonization advantage, like Trump obviously destroyed international relations, tariffs, etc. What like it, so does that mean how is this a plan solved about?
Do you want me to answer?
Sure.
Okay, so the like status quo to the US hasn't aligned with the EU in their adoption of sidewalking, and the Korea evidence and the Merrill and Weber evidence point to it as a necessary influence. Okay.
Move aside. There is 6 off. Advantage 1, 2, 3, same as the honey sweet. Yeah, 6, 1, 2, 3.
From he helps us today.
Oh, sorry.
Mayor. No, you're good. I have exactly the amount of, I might need more later.
It's a sign. I gotta look forward. Okay.
Minus that one.
Awesome.
Indians throughout top governments increase protection across an entire club that they don't work the first day of the wording to say that running into one limit six of the top of hundreds of tiny sets and asking the negative behind on the unpredictable numbers many cases two is ground as support typical shifts the question before controversy and social property law next off.
The United States federal government ought to enter into a prior and binding racial impact assessment whether or not to significantly strengthen the role of psychological protection, domestic intellectual property to the copyright of the United States federal government ought not to pass or implement the proposal level as recommended the racial impact assessment. The government also present status quo failures by addressing racial discrimination policy making in 2013 are limited to the policy and prescribes our to refuse the use of those as benefits of the public. Officials of the discrimination the racial disparities absolutely happen adapted by discrimination ensures that simply named racial neutral policies to have racial exclusion of vulnerability 16. Racial discrimination discrimination of limited racial discrimination of racial racial exclusion bills that scientific field extermination of traditional impacts of racial selection culminated in 2017. The law of access to the that's all. We are not philosophically prepared for both worlds, both within and outside of capitalism. Religion no longer serves the central organizing principle of the West, rather it drives an idealist nostalgic white world is defined by the messianic drive to immortality. Kroger 21. 800 million doses of automation of the class of our social the president of the diet. We exist in the age of two Manhattan projects. Emerging technology began the process of everything both since the time of history culminating in a new life to begin the development of technology modification of French World War. The government was absorbing us to start everything capable of self and self question that you will have psychological warfare and that would be done usually. I want to say people did and there's like by television social media around virtual life and you go over the years and the future around it. Get the young the audience and the working things about our working slowly. The working vision I secure of the world technology analysis of the biology. You know the number of people who go over now but we I will value you have to ready to and you know the knowledge of the working some sort of technicity. The process in the essence of the Bluetooth technology is a combination of proximity, virtual distance, ethically justified, and permanent annihilation for company power for artificial workers the virtual technology and the word and the rest of the things that are virtually visible for those technological side of themselves and then some other university thinking well doing the show and from the annihilation for the check out and then it's also there it's a little low until the there's something I think about alternative and digital hermitage and embrace of the nihilism at time when I saw the republic that they've been that being of that disciplines of mind way for the most technology program for. What is the bit of the universe about the president of the rationality and the sense of what it is that's all in the body so like having the process and I mean the lots of the sexually harsh and the body rather so the next year there's section of that coming back to the body and the knowledge and the also I want to sort of things you know very very comparison and additional and the lending the passion the digital I mean the house in the universe and all the constant reality next all Congress supports are at odds that IPR Congress wants to protect IPR force on a weekend in the plan uses the force to tell the plan that undermines the SMB and crosses the democratic accountability in 17 Congress supports the right that collapses the last credibility in community one. Willing to do more than the U.S. Talks about commitment by President says Japan long range strike of the rights to achieve stability and leads to nuclear escalation jobs. What even accomplishes as a national security and the launch of the certain strike that has been the hundred the attack China 70 launch. Unfortunately, the number of China see the as a series of BDS. The retaliation I saw. Antitrust scrutiny solves the AIB consolidation now as the year 24. Antitrust consolidation. I use intrinsically tied to competition policy of price excessive FTC here. That's most numbers. Oh, one. I use this social immigration project the market so that I might be better promotion. I use this project and consideration of the specialization levels of the details. FTC integration that have recognized should be considered. FTC research and finance members trade function in 19 and the research of FTC this solution is probably should be considering that the actions. FTC action prevents consolidation is getting power work with the registered China to involved in 22. As is much of the best following because this little over to show the rule. I'm not looking at the service they have so full of her. whatever. Yes, you must support a little worthy generation, national sustainable concept of life. New revenue blessed there is a small number, normally that seasons that issue. Of course, manage one. Slow growth because Evelyn has no impact as low for 20 as GDP is low than the prices of also. You can easily have businesses and investment maybe the work over successful merchants. All the when it's your that's benefits my career. That's your for the little for the math history of that 2% over is an issue. One is no modeling, nobody wants to follow the US after Trump and access dollars on Ukraine, the feeling 225, the recovery of the understanding of the US and the US is the UK and France, the road of books and the universal, version of her and the economy considered an ally by others of the options to do this, and the West can not have the intelligence of the UK, Australia, the regional Canada, however, analysis of the no trade impact from the alternatives is also 21, the one who is also trade of the college, but it's not very different than the promise of the culture, and the Muslims to share all the rest of the Australia, the Burma, and the Balkan, and all, and the trade China, the source of those names, there's about numbers of these issues, and actually, so the infiltrators are close up and close up on ministry. First, is that there's nothing the rule of law. I mean, internally about Trump is destroying it now. That's both the social I'm using the idea of people in the field is the rock this is a change on level of something that's something that did and what of my strategy. You was just something that is just last year something about that we have all these. TPT as a statistical or artifact and empirical analysis in student 18. The results of the snow and also the critical evidence of the judgment of the cases zero also also the measurement of the service by visual in the word is that design the word and the system of something very with every box of the box you cannot achieve it. And it cannot make something very hard, calling bigger on this Becker 20. I'm doing it because of the fascinating use of foundation and so much and we can little norms of the history. Just very differences of you cannot be used. No climate impact weapon 20 by the weapon 20 to read the software as also the person my secretary of the it was something about that changes to be more likely to also the something the separation of the plus and I see she is going hardly and I remember marine life is so this is diet and terrorism is overhyped and the risk is exceedingly small. This really 23 a couple of things here such as the population is low. I think point five times 50 per year extreme of this one business officially package is very and I bias and restricted was you know section rated the outside words to view as a major and we probably high races for progressive really and probably contributing that to the over something over about the most amount of virus until the 19 I like the 1.7 are people selling by much research it's only 200 people over 5 years ago. I have 20 seconds. Do you have an extra card or something?
Say Trump comes.
Trump, huh?
Trade relations gone overall.
I heard it, Cardin. Yeah, but Trump obviously already backstabbed multiple other countries and increased the tariffs on hundreds on practically everyone in the world. There's no reason that the one instance of the app can overwhelm that. I'm good for questions. Commissioner.
Reasons to reject the team.
There's like topic out. There's no like hidden side or anything.
You didn't read a violation on the subs. If all copyright is protected from piracy, no, you didn't. Do you have any reason why we don't need an NDCA?
Yeah, I said they don't, and it's because it's about
You didn't say why. Have you read any reason in the one and see why we don't?
yeah, it's because you don't protect all copyright.
Okay.
Site blocking protection is a specific thing. Even
so I have some more
questions.
questions.
You said we did.
Okay, is it a floating pick?
What's a floating pick? What do you define as a
Could
floating?
it result in the app being implemented?
No,
Do you see alcohol?
no.
The Croker link is about US empirical use of nukes. Why is that a unique link to the plan?
The link to the plan is the will to technology and mastering.
Well, it's about Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, it's giving examples of how the United States, after the first Manhattan Project, which allowed for nuclear weapons, it made people think that humanity could be like God.
Where does it say the app is uniquely another Manhattan Project?
No, that's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
What Croker's trying to
It's
say
not
is
your
that
mind.
after the first Manhattan Project, as the people's minds switched to trying to control parts of nature, mastering technology as much
How
as
is
they
digital
can.
coverage solved if you said you don't be on any sort of mindset shift? Obviously, this is ingrained in the minds.
This is about debate. This is about like the judge taking a role of like a digital hermitage, which would move
What
our
does that
minds
mean?
away
How does
from
that solve
moving
it?
away from digital technology.
But if so, does digital technology not exist absent that case?
No, it's a question of the will to technology and your desire to master the universe
So
through
do
the
you
apps.
like still eat the will to
The
control
will to technology
and
wouldn't
US
exist
policy.
in a world of like digital hermitage, it's about your specific policy,
I
that
guess
also
this is
rejects the app
probably
and
a-
adopts a digital hermitage.
Progress in the context of choosing solitude, why would that solve?
Because you're
So,
training your
wait,
mind to not.
Move away from like
Whose
training
mind
your
are you training?
like the judges, the debaters here, this.
The RAS
You
counter
were
plan,
planning to
I
change
have
the
some
use of
questions,
digital.
the RAS counter plan, I can't find the line in one, it's Kennedy that says racial impact statements over site blocking is necessary, can you point me to one if you think otherwise?
What is the question?
Where there's a germane link to the act, it doesn't say IP, it doesn't say copyright, it like vaguely just.
It says that policies that are viewed as that are are typically color
Where have you said
are
that?
not actually
policy is
colorblind, the plan is the plan has been.
Where does the Kennedy evidence say that site blocking is called?
Because
does-
the fact that you don't specify how you're going to.
It's a link of omission. The antitrust said the Medina evidence is in the context of a Biden era FTC. Ferguson is now in control over Trump, like under the Trump administration. Where do you think you've read any unique evidence that Ferguson will continue like hampering down the defense industrial base if Trump is pouring money into national security?
A few things. First is our links are about how IP has historically been tied to competition policy.
I'm asking
So
about
they're about empirics. So there's no reason this would. It's 10 minutes, right? Yeah. All the parts for. And she said, you know, kind of her. Yeah. That is basically the sound. Oh, sorry, did you say one song?
No, I said, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Advantage one, slow growth. Advantage two, harmonization. Advantage three, rule of law. Key subsets, the RIA counterplan. The like cybernetics aspect. The Japan and then the antithesis. Okay. Yeah, we got it. Sorry, I've read it. Yeah, we have it. We don't have the second though with the like extra parts for the K and the.
It's just fun and.
Are we? To start that. I want to see those. Oh, okay, yeah, I just. I thought that was Sarah, that's the one. I know, I have about.
Yeah, I just think so.
That's true. Oh, okay, it came for me. Did it come for you? Yeah, it just came for me, Jimmy said I downloaded it. You said there was context as well that you were sending, right?
It's in the docs.
Okay, sure, I'm good with everything.
But you did.
One to see one is wrong, so your cause distinction first is perception, vision, private Russia, China, no colonial will proceed, both is useful and putting motivated to attack and initiate a nuclear war. Second is power useful to develop and reduce it. Attempt to be economic distress, destroying your security, US loss of lead and economic SOI decreases the credibility of the alliance is feeling. A very powerful position that's effectively evidence and assume a post-COVID era in which tensions are hiding to vanish too. One is one, yes, while the use is currently lacking in adopted global norms like the Australia, France, Russia, and the UK have already adopted site blocking and are seeing success. That's the core evidence that the plan solved because it aligns the US with global blocking norms, namely momentum for leadership for IP. That's the as well evidence. Trump is irrelevant. Their evidence isn't about the intent to adopt any site blocking norms. 1C2 is wrong. Yes, it has trade collapse. It causes extinction fear of decline, causes leaders to use nuclear force to gain credibility to adopt protectionist policies. That's autonomous and evidence. They say Trump thumbs, but first it's wrong. One, don't link it. One, C. It's not in the context of is in the context of Trump increasing tariffs on China, which doesn't give an offense because Lansing, Bear, and Weber and Lansing Thompson found the context of trade collapse between the EU and the US. Second is logically obeyed. You think this claim that trade is already low, but the plan is necessary to reset state. And third, is there will be definitely solves for no impact. Tariffs won't affect EU trade that to that above the street. One is wrong. Either causality is some way or correlation is spurious. Shiva 21 even the peer force of good democracies that in the past have any contradicts here observations observations not directly explained. The observed peace for democracies a cause for review reverse causality spurious correlation but crossplay everything I did on trade about how durable fiat definitely overcomes the thumper. Now DPT is true. Democratic collapse causes extinction and inflamed tensions between autocracies and budget treatments. It's an impact builder, makes disease, terrorism, poverty, nuclear war more likely. That's a twinning evidence concede. No impact to climate gets rid of a lot of the impact on the K terrorism impact. Yes, it causes extinction, destruction of rule of law bodies terrorists. And once terrorists to initiate nuclear conflict, global destruction is internally climate part. That's the real evidence, and they dropped that it caused war because the greatest productivity to military didn't destroys any checks for government based on C subsets. We need first extra context second function. We affect the entire area of cooperate when the area is part of the camera dictionary in the area in the area part of it, and area new area technology in. We need to then B21 need the limits of term within please the policy even expressed and close for first specifically consensus we cite. With an extra sentence to the fact that they aren't flowing, so I don't think they're going to go for it. Second, over links to simply aggressive expectations will never meet their internal balance and links to plans or links to cooperate functional and definitely check REA kind of plan. Currently, both firm with the campaign A result doesn't require certainty website and consult and deliver B nor media CPT 19 even to determine how reflection C should. Its advisory amounts are also equals all Richmond 16 even the must has never reiterated the Supreme Court said an employee that should not convey them period of obligation more and more. Computation than all having should is advisory not mandatory recommendations on made normal means the federal government does. A racial impact statement White House 23 by the state executive order advancing racial equity having the communities through the government that are governed racism and persistent poverty provided for all federal agencies to launch government for equities making way and promise for America for every firm. The plan and the plan of whether issue can have protection function better to reserve finance class costs and depends on what nation justified. Until this rose constraints in the entirety of nation there's public education by authority that were to proceed the resolution plan solves the terror because democratic class undermines human rights to the K. The judge calls frequent the hypothetical implementation of the plan against competitive alternative links having needed small must materially solve preferred for 4 reasons. First, dedication way the money against the K otherwise move topic research and craft purposes and should about the game. Second is fairness and class must be linked to the plan otherwise the links that are to pick out a bunch of devices on to recycle the same things every recycling topic education. Third, the scenario planning is good about opportunity cost the consequential forecasting or cause and so we're forced to assess the consequences of the plan on a larger scale case. Our NPI and cross-flight is good. That's the Cooper card from the when I see case always encourages the war disease and disease. We make Earth in the habitable betting and future improvements firm devoted to double binary results, sufficient over the links are fails, inevitably no link first. Due to the status quo, no reason why the app isn't describing bad capitalism. Also, technology isn't inevitable, so this proves that the all has any capacity to overcome the link cybernetics as well. No millions to need the cybernetic vision focusing on pathway persistent contain. Behavior these remain primarily negative links of the decentralized power, which is not probably even having been constructed for the scene primarily conducting the things impossible otherwise. The impossible cybernetic vision to ignore the grounded power, which will constitute the hence and modify the between misunderstood power will also. Misapprehend the measures necessary to transform and even responsible control of them habits, altered and Nietzsche's Western thought, positive logic that ends not biologics, my ended 2004 universal character relationship of the word and Nietzsche having the root, and thus looking at the foundation of biology next to do psychos, logic, and anthropomorphism, and the animal course, and put that in minimalization in either. He made it closer to more that can comport itself in life towards succeeded. Top is good first, 4 point. At all 22, even the trading creatures with cost of the conflict and the evidence supports underpinning the freedom and independent reaction creates to work which ways of the majority diversity of appreciating the culture is not designed peace and order, and it does not exist. Second is climate side. Or actually, I don't need to read climate because I can see no impact. Third is world peace. Not to 19. There's no agreement. The world has been there's no things. The world is moving slowly towards peace leaders. But the most interest in self-determination is not possible. There are also lines with the global orderly top in markets, a little interest in marketplace and trading. The extension implication given the main migrants because of the degrees of foreign policy practices robust markets have no effect on foreign policy despite making conflicts with states. And market order security limits may not exist at all. It's also sustainable, fully to be trying to do the creator of the enterprise community consumption is non-green economies. Even producing more good, even few resources, sustain position from industry, less resources, activities, materials that you can grow, even without the force of your environment impact mark. A great environmental impact also those first cases this at all classes of the US economy, efforts to solve extinction and thinking with alternative solves. These are long and short-term disruption is magnified in ways you can second is capitalism because capitalization can't overcome geopolitical growth compared to or humanity willing to people continue to actively believe in it despite the possibility of bad stuff. But even if they try to go for this for a reps K day or reps K, be very skeptical of their offensive framework because they have reps too that contradict proven by the fact that they read DISAD, a process counter plan, and and transition words means it fails. Thursday 22 inspirational thinking is wrong. Gas. Not to space fast track another source of conflict economic activity resistance escalation high tension can other countries criticize upon. Whole between some countries range to the reality of the countries and even scarcity generates the growth comparatively the growth without bridging class trade force and millions remain poverty floating conservative running issue moves. The entirety wants to often feels supported improved in a drug accident reality, but he's imagining unreal situations completely aggressive and utopian conditions running issue first. It's further studying because the substance could have worse straight during decides and slashing base second that skills lowers the bar which include the one is disposed by next predict. Condition absence of permanent theories right to pay that. One piece that we can current corporate activity as far as was seems to do so growth, take plus and democratic growth, that's also having second is durable fiat solves the lines of core Congress because they vote to plan 3. Is that the Trump Netflix passes separation of powers, Ellison BD 12 even the Trump must have months for unpredictable times and that's the offended that agencies terminate the fire even tens of thousands of workers without congressional people countries are already all his family must have every chance of domestic for Trump that has 55 second order to the first to produce and our workers pardon. January 6th offense in the face of children federal when those having the mandated to dismantle the federal workers or the APA is firmly backed up from a broken curly to so even lawyers are confident that Trump's executive power between the APA the law just happened throughout the war and actions already averaged judgments of the nation others administrations of Trump's responses over the reason reasons already over the APA judge to the judge the APA finding the admin say already violating the epic speaking medical the APA haunted Trump and the first from Japan conventional missile deployment doesn't undermine relations with China 10-320 even the Japanese missile have interest likely to derail relations between Tokyo region Tokyo will leave the upgraded types level of the ECS will have to cover the Notre Dame for the previous and Tokyo Berlin bilateral relationship overall trend other improving relations likely to be also Japan's missiles like limited partnerships only despite the persistent changes to Japan and patching the differences with the plan definitely solved eventual war of Russia China no cutting wrong via prevention still growth anti-justice that. Cross-flight case that weighs in firms from the other decide 2 Trump election firms decide wise 11-6 even Trump will gain the power to pick new FTC of Trump has more constant regulatory agenda to signals from Trump to the far more favorable for conditions to emergent acquisitions in the first may lead to larger mergers under Trump's second. Is our authorities not only grows over 23 even the government wants to solve its spectacular but the Giants have not gotten into the Mass Justice Department so against Apple competes or the courts of the answers like yes but the law still not making any sharp like all the small companies emergent AI the market AI so the second or fourth is the only a passage to the PLSA thumbs moss up 24 enacted in the PLSA is significant like that's a copyright easy passage by support for foreign passage and in case of the group instances open Congress can now enact digital forms that to better seek progress given the challenges and digital capabilities big tech like hate piracy they like the plan piracy in 22 even joint investigation found that the piracy sector revenues are serving the as of God might appear primarily consumer oriented but employees are often used for poorly seeking network piracy to make that a concern for enterprises top enterprise offer piracy content that are 1.80 if the plan is also terminal. And if that
What are the others?
Process counterplans, conditionality, floating pegs, fiating the all. I'm pretty sure that's it.
One more time. Process counterplans, condo, building the all.
And floating points.
Okay. On T, did you skip anything? Did you skip the two? Did you skip the second part of the EA part?
No, I read that.
Can you read all the standards?
I didn't agree with
Yeah, okay. The RIA counter plan, the current other issues that you specified, or the text. Just crossed out site blocking, so it would increase protections of domestic intellectual copyright and copyright property, right?
Yeah.
How's that not intrinsic?
We do think it's intrinsic and we think it's justified against laws.
Limited intrinsicness is what you just, or.
Well, yeah, we think it. Well, the counter plan is
All of them.
is functionally, or it's actually competitive and functionally intrinsic. We think that this is necessary against artificial and net internal net benefits, i.e. the RIA.
Did you read
Racial
all?
odds. That's,
Did you read all the definitions?
yeah,
Okay, the resolved definition about it like not requiring uncertainty.
Yeah.
We don't compete off of resolved, we compete off of should, why, like. what is
okay,
the
well, that's why I also read the bridge to 19, which is the definition of should.
No, I'm asking what the purpose of this is.
Well, I don't know what you're gonna define in the block, therefore, to make the 1AR's life a little easier, I'm going to define the words that I think are
Okay.
gonna.
The broker pay. On the alt, the transition wars, argument about there being the crackdown on
Yeah.
movements. We haven't like defended a movement outside of debate, where do you?
Well,
There's
there's two answers to this. First, we think that the alt is vague, which is kind of the standard on fielding the alt. Second, we think that you aren't able to solve anything if you aren't fielding anything out of debate. Third, we think this goes with the first con argument in which you have defended like topicality, dissat, and counterpoint ground, in which you have defended innovation. We think that if you're able to sever your reps, we obviously should be able to sever ours due to reciprocity. And we don't think that the block is gonna have a valid answer for that. But even if we don't think it's material, we think that saying a transition fails means that the link is inevitable in the world where technological innovation are not. The link will inevitably be triggered in a world where technological innovation is already going to be present in the status quo.
on the Japan this time.
Yes.
Which part did you skip the Chen card?
I didn't skip any cards. On Japan.
On antitrust, where did we mark the wise card?
I didn't
Not
mark
wise
the
card,
cards.
the. Okay. 10 minutes, starting now.
Prospect of 5%. I'm gonna skip those. Okay.
Long pause, is that the order? Yeah, I'm joking, I'm joking, I know Alpharetta.
Yeah, I sent the, like, let me know what you guys see.
I know your coach will put me here. It's okay.
Okay, and there's one off Kroger. First on the Kroger framing issue, this isn't the copy. They completely misunderstood what we're specifically critiquing here. Half their office doesn't even apply to giving this speech only proves that we can't imagine a world without capitalism, which is an independent link to our office. And the language with the intellectual properties and externalization of wills and master enthusiasts dropped the needs to statement that the nuclear bomb is rebrand reorientation of every instant technological innovation towards complete control of both inwards and outwards. There's two impacts outweigh in Turner's case first, resentment, internalization of utopian idealism embedded on unachievable self-image, omnipotent subject that has replaced Christian theocracy, which is results in crystallization of self-loathing, and second is artificial war, the will to mass materialize the relegation of war, and this is a digital imperialist domination to controlling the unruly population just by a very word of superpower weaponized spaces to remove missile warfare, global surveillance, or methods of control and turn case. Now, they say floating pigs were not we're not a pig, we're static, to counterinterpretation. That gets whatever pig they like here, real world opportunities of real world skewed education, and 5 reasonability, good is good enough, and 6, not a voter person, never to check competitiveness and abuse. And cases in outweigh the affirmative against a language to prioritize replicated right-wing reactionary appeal that past and never existed because the death is now and always has been focused as that the present seems to live increasingly on the remains of death is true, death of social and death of law, meaning the ways in which technological innovation justified is by technologically the status quo, obfuscating existing wars, genocides, and violence. And on the framework page, counter-interpretation, evaluate the willingness to reach project bracket off the substance, evaluate only bracket first is the only thing that leads us around when first we meet, we literally have specific links to advantage out to the more work below. But first, socialization with the externalization of those technologies violent, we should reject this externalization within debate skills and class education arguments, presume the debate teaches how to engage in research, participate in systems of power, winning our thesis, impact and source debates that their stance of producing diversity because the world in which we are producing the stances is very harmful. And second, rhetoric debates values materialized to aiming at rhetoric toward political material and to link factors, their rhetorical framing and type of advocacy produced, which means one alone is sufficient to write your ballot. You should refuse any interpretation that is strictly values, scenario, planning, fiat, etc. Because absentee actualizing those skills, education, knowing them is worthless. In terms of optogenetics, scenario planning, and policy education that affects engagement in false memory syndrome, rhetorical power, mesmerizing suggestions that circulate in spectacle just by creation of a world that never exists. Kroger 21. Psychic surgery is appearing living versus being an artist memory of the past, more reduced compelling conflict soothing and haunting views never actually have positive the neutral modification mass media multimedia and respectable media veteran capacity gateways modification report is stress rate anxiety and reward political memory within the mockery of the black lives and civil war racial relations in the population multiple Americans living who has rhetoric all the or stereo calculate every line of the life based technology can be in new memories world. the digital to the brain of the mass, society, neuroscience, cinema, political and happenings with their differences, also genetics and the language facilitation, and language, influence, recording, the passive directions, immune modification, a lot of experiments in the different ways, and we answer a future that physically and cinema and Matthew already experienced at the deep impacted level. And on fairness, predictability, the case predictable proven by K-frames, Campbell's, and in-depth research app, prep dumps all of their options and rhetoric impacts, rhetoric, etc. Conscious system within the opposite distribute prepared to defend against the impacts of the innovation rhetoric on the intellectual property topic, in order to make the order within debate, organized and values, political subject to what's easier to survey, code 21. We witnessed development my information that species different justice and habit surveillance, Soviet racist species extremism, stereotyping, discrimination, animating impulse content surveillance, AI, having 600 minutes of order, channel energy, maximizing political lowest profit, mental freedom, a new digital order, political panics of the past data, overturn citizens to identity, shooting surveillance lines between security states and technological reform, messianic movement, more seductive, isolating subject between borders, channeling, life changing experience, but of being digitalized, religious. That's an independent link to our office to the framework creation, illusion of order, feeding the ass, feeding the ass, will to master societal characteristics and on class impact and as well. We impacted determinists, the model of class equalizing no to the argument as the instrumental impact or value debated by impacts or specific opposite mechanisms which include unmanageable negative burdens for preparation to use rather directly headed to 1AC solves all of their options, equalize the playing field for next best answers with the app and I answered the above. But and affirmatives will to control warning. There's multiple links. One, the affirmatives will to control global warnings, externalization of the will to master. One, that cements the need for greater control of nature is possible, that is impossible to be reached. And two, cybersecurity is rooted in securitization, the rules, technology securitization, and insecurity creates an illusion of external enemy to justify the feeling of self-loading, procreate space at the lack of them, and resistance to materializing into resentment and little self-harm. Thus, the creation of external enemies is a plea from resentment, which then is capable when the status quo into plan. And three, the plan's insistence in manipulating, controlling X technology is an illusion toward a perfect world idea creation of a world almost religious, like support that we know is impossible to create, that reason at least a resentment. It's a rhetoric that contains the nostalgia of the false past, one that never existed, and will not allow for policy justified re-established world that is now untrue or never existed, such as how winning to attack races presumes that the U.S. has always been a hegemon. And for the apps called to deter terror, calls on a hegemonic state that adopts logic of terrorism, conventionalizing nuclear weapons, justifying infinite violence. The U.S. never experienced credible threats as defense proves, but securing IP and externalization of will to master control over its population of external threats, which are preconditions to war. And they say CAPCA for cross-apply is a framing issue here. That's an independent link to our office. The affirmative is clouded by the world of capitalism, believing that it's the ultimate end goal without any outside thoughts, since we have sufficiently proved that the way of thinking is violent and it turns all of their CAPCA office because believing in this thought is wrong and only supports the status Croker. And the alternative is digital hermeticism, the epistemological philosophy is salty and technological skepticism, which requires production and temptation of the world's technology. Hermitage is a kind of religious philosophy that effectively competes with the will to technology and its designation of technology as religious. Our argument is that to ask why digitality cannot be asked within the ruling axiomatic of digitality. Nihilism haunts digitality, which means that the only way to avoid the spiritual crushing of resentment is to literally train the mind and spirit away from temptation, which is a wholly negative epistemological orientation. And they say all fails the first cases on this side because we have one impact turned in model debate implication of Wednesday through reps or key rhetoric drives how we think and learn debate, which is also impact to that was the framework. And no transition words it's within the debate space, and their cards are talking about how some state words. We're not beyond like the mind shit that's you have to.
Yeah.
I'll cover this. Anti-subs hospital assholes cooperate over the entire software that's worth created data per hour and one. They say points to back, but that's a bad sense of counter supply actually mediated by highlighted words and solving the advocacy progress and expert position taken in speech about the app, and they say we meet, but they don't the act alt. Only alters affects site blocking, which is to the copyright, and their counters for wrong limits. They increase case of hundreds of apps to get retweet the action of one specific agency, the IP, the OSO company, or making a mind rule, and archaic agent, waste infinite, private person last feature, no core companies that are transparent, and due to two grounds, in turns, all of their officers means app can no link every single day, every counterfeit because the next way less prepared to string possible next with condition causing bad standards, and predictability flows next 1% we cite the best legal definition of words and phrases, also the most qualified. The worst phrase versus make 10% of outcome digits in the particular structure and a meaning of words that the definition made to scare all the words digits define. And here's some other words that prove our definition. They have to redefine every single word that are on top of protection. It requires changing the law for all rights holders. Kappa Growness 19. Section IP requires a law to be available to all IP rights holders. It's meaning everything belonging to U.S. under subset all dictionary 14 of or belonging to it. And 3, no impacts to sliding so predictabilities and yes, no to question internal links that they must win at large ones. 3, B community no install more wins shaped. It was predictable in the duration costs of A and C. Limits and predictability of small topic is standard more predictable. And they say app ground, but overlimiting or app ground is wrong bias. They only think the small topics are overlimited to structure app bias and previous versions like data. The water beach just as long as we win that there's some absolutely inability and intervening something areas can go app on listen to. Unlimiting outways each other willing to listen to overlimited topics, the alternative thousands to tiny stuff that out to break debate. And 3, overlimiting small topics are better used. These are the 2 rights.
Yeah. Can I stop some more paper? I'll have my questions. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was so close. Yeah. Good. Or even, you have the part, or you. I don't.
Oh, sorry, I just like said.
You're okay. Yes.
Proper quality, what's the impact?
Public health.
Limits
Limits ground, what's the terminal impact?
education.
Education.
Just education
Fairness.
and fairness. Okay. Case list.
Under our education, like Gen AI, Para, Job Save,
Okay.
waivers,
Okay.
dividends.
Does your framework let us weigh our app?
We get to weigh your epistemology, or you get to weigh your.
So do we get to weigh the impacts of our app?
No.
No. So you sever the entire, move the entire 1AC?
What?
You move the entire 1AC.
I wouldn't say that because you get.
Wait, but you just said that we can't weigh our app.
You can weigh your epistemology.
Okay, so
Epistemology
you
is part
sever
of
your
your
app.
app.
Okay, that's fine. The links, I want to go through each of them. First, you say the will to control warming. How does the alt overcome this?
You all overcome this by training our mind to resist
Wait,
the
how do
urge.
you train your mind?
That's what he's.
You train your mind by recognizing that the.
Okay, we recognize that like, if climate change is bad, why
So
should this
we
fall?
recognize that the will to technology is actually violent. It only furthers our ability to continue expanding technology, and we know it's impossible to actually control all of nature, etc. From your
Makes
side,
sense.
which means
You
that
looked up Japan Assurances this app, which was premised off of increasing innovation as well as the antitrust this app. Why are you able to sever your phone?
we believe that we can contest the app in different directions, different methods, etc.
Okay, what is the myth of order in debate?
The myth of order is that we don't have that many rules in debate. Like things like framework is setting more control to the affirmative, etc. It's not
How
like
is framework setting more control to the app if you muted the entire 1AC?
we didn't move the entire.
You
thing.
just-
I told
Your
you to get to
epistemology
weigh
is
it.
part of the one.
But you said that we aren't able to weigh our impacts.
We said you can weigh your epistemology, which is. That's the.
Okay, I'm a little
It's hard to
confused on
explain
whether
what
you're a
it's about.
floating pick or not, because you say you're not a floating pick and then you justify them. Are you one or are you not? You're not.
We're not a floating.
Okay, the. K is predictable, why?
Again, there's multiple K preamps, that you get infinite prep time to do that, etc. Camp.
Okay, so
camp
just like
files.
camp files? Okay, why is Clash bad?
Clash is bad because it depends on what we're learning from is how we're interacting inside a debate, and we have sufficiently proved that the model of debate,
Okay,
right?
on T, you said round is good
Right.
because you need to have Clash. How do you resolve this?
What?
On T, you said Clash is good, and then the impact turns Clash on the K
Again,
on space.
you get to weigh the app in different ways.
How is that relevant in the world where this isn't two competing conditional advocacies? It's you just merely contradicting yourself. Like this has nothing to do with conditional
You
advocacies.
can bring that up.
Okay, you're lucky.
It's being such. Okay. I'll finish. I'll send it again. It's sent. Order is SOP FTC T subs RS.
Sorry, so as to be to hand that.
SOP FTC T subs RS.
One type test, subs. And then risk assessment.
The
Are there problems?
yeah, I sent them. Is anyone not ready?
Oh, sorry, I have to go down the cards. Okay, I'm good.
Casino impact, we are going for 0 for how they turn, we give you answers in the second FTC to get to the second casino impact, we're not going for 0 how not more for how they turn, we give you answers in the extended T subs. An overloading is good, small jobs produce a better research by the TC judges and debaters are you looking at experts in the top of a sure having a really good technical having good to activate that engineering that process kind of debate for is with words based solve again not is also cases A is pattern to be asked to reform that pattern application policies the length of pattern duration or something that will see information B is copyright the length duration and hands of legal tools and enforcement streamline registration process C is a trademark that they can increase like USPG funding establishing tribunals how this is making enforcement of trademarks easier I can comments blockchain communal all their demand all examples dirty and cross all examples 267 is about functional limits is wrong one they're valid system the next start your interpretation insufficient to prove it not abuse all their grounds succession to start the core of the topic unless education will get to do so much innovation to circumvention thousands of muscle the last thing so that means there are many there are many that be average generic functionalists don't solve their office not all this functionalists here but you should see all two ways the amount of ways that go to first the DA solving users are the trash and seven is not unique inflation doesn't link purpose and voters don't play with the plan catalyst no benefit that are massive bad or negotiators have lit base and logical solely after the last after we agree to have patents out and there are other words the consensus is two is very more than they don't check three is one shot obviously can always be next to the code specificity and shoddy evidence can be fast any system 2EC will be a generic 2 3 is a topic general universal strategy only thematic generic same agent process must be unsustainable as a generic is improved by engineers 3 is listing and checks and log for everything next to manufacturing advantages that have the bigger zero around 4 is even if they're right there's an education that makes the debaters debates about policies processors minimal change of the zero unfortunate question the topic and reliance on hyper generics and RS sampling. Government solves the entire case, they have zero deficits, so you know that any risk of the net benefit, any risk of the net benefit, any risk of the net benefit outweighs, but the further thing is that focus on the intent of the plan and reproduce the racial inequality, defending the entirety of their process, the entirety of their process is a link to the business, they haven't defended anything other than the net implementation of the plan, they don't care for the further processes behind us, which means that there are a racial neutral policy, not only unintended consequences, only with a response being adapted to discrimination, body 16, adapted to discrimination, adapted to the position, making the opportunity to questions in the selling plan, criminal justice, argumentation for loss, politician being about person, different contents, and conduct, going to what he did, and critical thinking versus treated to emergency choices, adapting to innovation, and information, B, the second level of professor, how does give you a talk with zero discipline, but allow for delivery, stress, and resource, but I believe at a logical agency, is a logical situation, make a judgment, for the best moving policy, anything else in real world, which turns up in their office project, are arguing out about person that chooses to attack a being process, kind of process, a good process, often for contributing the argument on the team, PerfCon is good for me if you have a few reasons. First is necklace. All we have to do our burdens over joining to prove the atoms that we don't need to atoms in our B is a P of the ground. We need contrary arguments to test. We need to affirmative in every way possible. That's both three is not a vote. We'll only go for one argument and the two are anyways. Any form of contradiction is justified by net conditionality. If they get to be conditional, we should begin to have contradictory arguments and which guarantees that two in our choice. Which guarantees two in our choice. Perfect both is something one is which is the same policy with the multiple policies at the same time. The dermal means the plan entering immediately defensive which is possible and simultaneously enter RS2 list with the benefit of moves RS being of moves as the plan does move the IRS simultaneously and the counterplan one is established to contact services motivation and the conduit and projected at face or the game is per fund the government never productions by PR but only recognizes the ID policy to the rating should see 2 the sorting A should be most of the starting game given when it should be some of the must be resolve the circular 13
that suffers from 94, and so the mandate of the construction of shit. The word is ideation, nobody to be in the house, and the general effect of the future community as a result of the community, very house of the extension of the decision of the five is normal means of the building set. The GSA does not reconsider the county to be a set of ours for reconsideration of ours. The second of them will be house reconsideration of the body of the infantry. The service for the first one is limits allowed to lay on certain days every process topic which is numbers without the means of our policies of mitigation and try to follow her by any immediate action 3. The distance and the purpose use the distance after the minority communities design. The accessibility data text and functionally exclude the evaluation of policies of minority communities with to make more accessible to minority debaters and paramount issues. First, we can listen that benefit the paramount the plan of has a definitive and definitively regardless of the negative impacts of minority communities. So cross-line point to confirm to both. If conceded has negative impacts on those communities. So two, we must training that's voter also has to set up and there's part of the comments has to have to the debating is an agreement competitive equity and intrinsic is justified that it's an artificial. Three, we project the permit for reading is also something that issue. We can make us all solve solvency that's their consulting over the should only reward lazy permutations. The order? Yeah, online, everywhere, here. Okay, the order is advantage 1, advantage 3. The counterplan. Or sorry, T. The counterplan. Okay. Actually, yeah.
1, 3, 9, 5, 6.
Longer causes extinction, that's exactly the evidence. The plants all cause loss of perception of reversion, powers like Russia, China, and Notre, causes a U.S. vulnerability, which causes attack that escalate, go to advantage 3, democratic collapse causes extinction, causes disease, terror, poverty, and nuclear war. That's the 20 evidence only the absolute which turns the because it decreases autocratic institutions and surveillance go to T subsets. Plain text in a vacuum is
best for neg because they get to determine whether plan does their definitions for one positional competition destroys. Alpharetta because justifies the role of these counterplan is different from developing defense capabilities. Two normal means teams could reader cycle paper counterplans because the one I see this card discuss paper theories arbitrary and overrate line causes plan text in the back viewing to be the most standard objective, but we also need functionally that are they have protection in the context of the or are they have redefined protection. It's that's also in plan text, so it meets plan text back with the new definition, but we need functionally because site blocking is applied to everything under copyright. That was one in C projects, and it was embarrassing because they didn't read a violation. That the winning argument is the fact that the protection is applied to everything under that has been pirated, so everything under copyright gets that sort of protection online. But they also drop reasonability because they conceded an open which means that you should default to reasonability, and our definitions are the most predictable anyway, and so they don't have any sort of offense go to the counterplan. Functionally intrinsic and textually non-intrinsic firms are good against counterclaims with artificially competitive net benefits. One intrinsic is artificially competitive. Right? Because it means we never big market that impacts the actual germanius. They only prove that RA is a good enough plan is that there's no internal link that proves that plan is intrinsic to the VA. Even if you don't think we get the firm, if you think that the claims are not about the act and independently reject the counterclaim because it destroys the burden of vertical joiner, but their offense is wrong. It doesn't link to the net benefit firm. Do both answers assume double solvency, but doing the counterclaim over another area of copyright like indigenous traditional knowledge would solve and not link because it's not being done twice. And if they win any sort of link to the net benefit, then any instance of copyright the net benefit is artificial. When it's context, it's embarrassing because Kenny doesn't say site blocking. I feel copyright once reason. It's a reason counterclaim is going not the plan is bad. No thing is clear over any other type of copyright. In the case that they try to cross flag and do the counterclaim, which don't allow them, firms don't have to be talkable. That was to check when counterclaims couldn't be talkable. Massively disfavors the advocates that the world is counterclaim can't be affirmed. There's no distancing today because we don't cause the distance. We cause looking at the actual effects of the policy that we're implementing, and there's no accessibility today because if you had a link to the app, you could read the R, but they drop it its normal means, so the plan solves the terminal. That's why House evidence go to cat. Our interest is the judge's policymaker who weighs the hypothetical implementation of the app is competitive alternative. The role to judge is spoken who did the better debating none. There's probable impacts for right. Their interest develops into link the use terminal, which prevents us from leveraging our best offense from the 1AC against the cases we have to start with the defenses of ethics in the 2AC with sidelines office ready for 1AC. They can hit DAs wrong without any repercussions specifically in this round, but fairness, internally towards education, equitable division of grounds. It's only way to maximize the educational benefit of debate by creating equal precedents for both sides. They have conceded on TDAP that fairness is a big impact, so they don't get to go for the case because it's not just a first point argument, it's an argument that they have said fairness is an impact. Their interpret incentivizes model to be more unpredictable instead critique. The metaphorical meaning behind each card causes quality clash, like a quality clash can never happen in clash. Is an impact because it causes internally the education claims because we'll never be prepared. They drop subjectivity. Debate does not cheat subjectivity. A will cause schoolwork classes in the next 50 years of our lives outweigh. And these arguments have to go for my good and quite bad, and even it's arguing that we don't believe in it. But the meaning specificity of the link advantage is wrong. They don't have any specific links to the app advantage because they haven't debated the app advantage. They have to disprove that they're true before they can critique them, which they haven't done. The rhetoric standard on framework links links to rhetoric is bad. We have a valuable tool for radical futures that shy away from current discourse. Even though we can't directly influence policies, policies, but it requires an application of fiated research. Next, optogenetics is wrong. Afiot self-distancing. Imagining the plan teaches us to be more epistemic than our immediate reality by anticipating its consequences. Debate is not the cross-apply all the old causes. Next, the program evidence is wrong. Predictability doesn't dump. They are wrong. They evolve into the same humanistic principles to criticize the Steinhoff 16 program place. Deploys a dark picture of capitalist society. Techniques for higher group primary cause of the condition in which is post-humanist era. There's a tension with the book closes with an explicit call to recover values also capitalism stands certainly juxtaposed with the latest humanist mark humanism. But extinction outweighs a case for winning it proves that our extinction isn't whitewashing vegan. Nuclear war returns the hate because societal conflicts cause racial class conflict because people search for scapegoats, but they drop the point and to the evidence that says that capitalism is a sustainable tool, which means the links are inevitable. The alt can't solve them. There's no link to the climate or cybersecurity because the alt doesn't have any way of solving it. If it does, then it's which is voter, which they just no links. The manipulative stuff is wrong because there's no link. We are fulfilling our rights. The results fault is non-falsifiable, and the sustainability stuff proves that our current capitalist structure can't overcome the links.
Okay. 507 starting now.
Oh, Kroger? Yeah. No.
3 framing issues makes it easy that God 1 conceded terms in fairness and class means that you already know that we're ahead of framework and they don't get the way you have to. 2 drop 3 independent links and continue to explain the same word over and over, which proves our office and board or 3 they never contested the all solvency or any of our impacts, which means that you know they're true. But first, the 2HC has conceded 2 major weaknesses against the unsustainability of capital and drops embedded growth while simultaneously giving greater control to AI and tech and those who control and make it impossible to answer whole. Without capitals and the 2 Manhattan projects, the actual Manhattan project was to end the history and shift of culture we're thinking towards total human control in the second, which is our understanding of body as genetic code. Nothing else justifies the constant modification and control of our body towards immortalization. The only threshold the affirmative has to have reached in this entire debate is proving that their will to master and will to technology are epistemologically good, which they didn't, and that means that you vote neg on two major impacts which outweigh and Turin's case which have been dropped in the 1AR1 Resentiment. The continual expansion of technology will to master and only has self-blame because it's impossible. It's humanly impossible to control all aspects of nature, and but the status quo adoption that will crystallize itself as an undying self-hatred that crushes the soul, causing psychological damage. That's a pretty impact inside this debate too. And war will to mastery materializes about the imperialistic domination to control the population who cannot be resisted under the mindset because technological advance acts as a buffer against recognizing root cause to control that all out justification for any power stability system weapons and turns case and which means that there's no solvency on the case either. That's both in and out. And we look around, you have the surveillance camera right there recording as you see the affirmative control framework, and you see the affirmative control over their impacts, which means that you get three impacts and empirics to show that the status quo is at fault right now. But 1AR1 framework, we answer framework answer from the two single parts specific links to the action of the flow. That means that we meet and counter-interpretation evaluate as the research part of only rhetoric first, priority one drop socialization, which means that you chose true. If we win the will to we want that will to mastery and its control is violent, meaning that you auto vote neg, and two drop rhetoric. The way you learn to debate is the words you say and how they're set rhetoric from the 1AC frames or advocacy, which materializes into real life, which means that we solve through the alternative. And three, off the genetics scenario playing policy education engagement of falseness and nostalgia and stability of the past justifies infinite expansion into a world that never existed, that includes things like fiat and they cases and outweigh the affirmative language or triodize replicative of right-wing reactionary field of the past that never existed because death is now has always been. Croker says the president seems to live increasingly on the remains of death is true, death is social, death of law, meaning that the way which technological innovation is about in the status quo is also getting single genocide and violence which goes drops. And so you know that you can't weigh case first. The only thing you have to weigh is the K and 1AR4 debate shape such activities the very foundation of the world lead to this moment of will to mastery. Like I said, and 1AR2 predicted was fairness, predictability of the case only predictable by proven by K freedoms can't fall in that which goes drop, which and that's more predictable than whatever their no warranted fair and unpredictable fairness comes what we literally indicted predictability right here, which means that it's true in rhetoric. The perhaps when I see the way they represent it is the way they did, and in order their framework limitation, just other ways to control that. What we can say there's not many rules in debate other than speech times, which means that that's another link. And now class externalization of will technology by voting out is violent improves educational argumentative benefits that come from debate. The internet model is violent as well, which is an impact term to their standard and diffuse. You can have a singular terminal impact that's specific to debating impacts and specific solvency arguments, which means that there's already infinite negative burdens prepared. And they say there's per but this is because of the fact that we're living under the affirmative model and affirmative framework, which causes us to have to performatively contradict in order to get any offense. And they dropped three links. One, cybersecurity is within the securitization with technology. Our thesis is that the two Manhattan causes psychological breakthroughs to the fact that people always want to improve as much as possible, and this is fragile and it only creates external enemies that securitize stands. Two is the warming index, which means that they're trying to control the nature of the warming itself, which causes which only increases their will, which is driven by their will to technology, will to master the nature itself, which is the link. And they're saying that cap is good over and over again. It's another link because Croker specifically says that it's impossible to imagine a world without capitalism and without capitalism in and outside of capitalism, and that's the problem because of the fact that we are always blinded by the status quo's failures and Manhattan project as well as capitalism, which causes us to continually reach for mastering technology, which then releases responsible and endless control. And the alternative digital hermetism, technological nihilism, undying skepticism, reject the temptation and will to technology. Digital hermetism towards the project of 1AC is incompatible with the project of 1AC because it's always an unbiased answer. And then they had a stallion of 16 cards, but it says book review of one of the Croker's books, but it isn't contextualized to the alternative, but offers a warranted critique in the way of what's technology creates to adequately justify our artificial war or any of our resentment arguments for argue social life to be preceded with digital heritage. And I did the work above, and they that means that their will to mastery is the specific link to the app. They drop all the links, and we're way ahead of framework here, which means to go ahead.
Surveillance state and.
Alright, you happy? I'm happy. Yeah.
It is an easy app out when they drop case and extinction at waste, so mean that any risk that we went through, we just tried to app. I'm going for democracy since they dropped that it turns the case impact of surveillance since the US would become a surveillance state absent clear rule of law and which would undermine human rights. Democratic collapse causes extinction. I don't have to do much work here because we completely dropped it in plain section between autocracies, which leads to extremism, which makes an impact, which is an impact filter, makes disease, terrorism, poverty, nuclear war more likely. That causes extinction because of nuclear winter. That's the 20 evidence. Go to the Cape proper in terms of the judges and false figure in the hypothetical implementation of plan. I guess the kind of alternative links was have uniqueness and the alt must materially solve. They have violated both of these because first we kick out of both advantages that have to do with the links, and second, they have not said the word site blocking or copyright this entire debate, which means they should definitely be skeptical. Alpharetta has committed an in-round fairness violation for not reading unique links or an all this solves materially prove and that have not all this solves materially. The net benefit is fairness. I didn't think I heard it once coming out of the two in our first. It's the only impact that your ballot can solve. Even if you think that will to power is bad, your ballot cannot remedy the violence that has occurred in this round. Second, it's more philosophy. Collapse is absent fairness. Violence is bad because it's unfair, meaning that fairness is the prerequisite. Third, that they dropped that they agreed. 2 empty crossings was embarrassing on this because I asked, quote, what are the impacts to T? And they said, quote, fairness proves that they also believe that preserving the game is valuable. This interlinks their education plans because equitable division of ground is the only way to maximize educational benefits to debate by creating an equal preference. But I'll do defense anyways. Education isn't the primary motivator of the activity, but fairness is proven by how you would post around so fast that the judge flipped a coin to determine every ballot. Now in the answer class, they dropped a word that they don't say that saying class bad and class is good isn't a reason for conditionality, rather because it's not two conditional applications, but two completely contradictory statements, and their model justifies them double turning themselves in any speech and still being able to win, which is obviously a bad model of debate, but our model also facilitates better class because that is everything I did above. Now they must read unique links to the plan to preserve topic education because otherwise they can define every word in the 1AC, which is infinitely aggressive, and it's one of their interprets one of the most abusive ones I've ever seen. It devolves into links you lose where everything around becomes an object of study, not just the cards that allows them to critique. They critique the app because we read it in English. This turns their impact since incentivizes targeting individual debaters because they're the ones who created the scholarly project. They also dropped the scenario planning is good because of education allows us to have conversations that engage in many different perspectives which fosters and that the productive education in the debate space. So also is good for scenario planning because it allows us to compare impacts to determine the best course of action, which is a portable skill we'll take with us into the real world, which is key to class. Now they say they both have the big cat and project, but it's irrelevant when they have not read a link to the plan that would mean that proves that the process would be to the stage. Now there was not a link first, but all doesn't solve it. It's also not falsifiable because we aren't doing any sort of role playing or acting. Now the pure domination link, LOL, surveillance camera warrant was hilarious considering that you said that you only solve in the debate space, but for your ballot. To the fact that we have no idea what the links to the plan is, what impact the plan causes, the 2 and R is a whole bunch of big words without any contextualization incentivize innovation to increase tech. Well, that's gonna solve every second. Is saying have good, or saying have good is the link, but winning framework definitely overwhelms the mere winning. The question of whether it's sustainable, which means that the all definitely doesn't solve now. The three things that the next said they went on the top of the tuner are definitely wrong, because I know Ava answers every single one of them. I would go to the ultimate here, it failed. Quincy Kroger explained that in order to reach digital hermitage, we need to divert the mind away from the will of technology. This isn't possible, especially in debate for two reasons. First, it's epistemologically, them reading a TDA and counterplaying grounded in standards about innovation. Utilizing tech proves that they can't solve in-ground and that the impact must be marginal. If anything, this means that capitalist ideology and debate is inevitable since they are engaging it too. This also, the perf con in the one and R doesn't apply because it relies on traditional advocacy that did above. This implicates debate by proving the framework argument is bankrupt since they don't have any access to a better model of debate. And second is that it's material because cap is sustainable, proving that the will to technology is inevitable and all doesn't overcome it. They dropped the warrant that calls them claims to be that economic growth is resource saving, making it inevitable. They also dropped the Steam Hub card that Kroger relies on the theory that devolves into humanistic principles that he criticizes. He deploys a dark picture of capitalism societies, which doesn't fully account for the actual tendencies within human society, and it takes a humanistic approach which isn't actually accurate. So even if you think that us reading have good in the choice he was violent, they don't have any offense because they drop the insight that Kroger himself does not have any understanding of what is truly capitalist.
The second round is.
We wanted to tell him before we did it, so he could turn off the camera.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, I completely wanted to.
No.
Cool. Position?